Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Fergal Armstrong, and this is Cracking Addiction. And once again, we have the good Dr. Laura Petracek with us. Good morning, Laura. How are you?
I'm good, Fergal. How about yourself?
I'm very well. So I thought today we'd continue our journey into, the management of emotional distress. Previous episodes, we've discussed acute crisis management. Now I think it's time that we move to kind of those longer term non-crisis interventions. How would you describe the psychological tools that people can use to kind of, manage the long term in terms of crisis management, in terms of emotional distress management?
Right. So the distress tolerance skills for clients not going through a crisis, the main two are reality acceptance skills and mindfulness skills.
Hmm.
So reality
So,
accept oh, go ahead.
well, I was going to ask you what's reality acceptance, and then I'll ask you what's mindfulness.
Okay. Um, so reality acceptance is just that, accepting reality, or there's a very common phrase in pop culture, it is what it is.
Hmm.
Um, and so reality is looking at the worksheet is, okay, what's the situation? What are all the statements that you're saying on one column? Like, for example, there's this cartoon, and it's raining really hard. And on one column, it's, oh, I can't believe it's raining. Oh no, I'm going to have to go back and get my umbrella. I'm so upset. I thought it was going to be sunny today. This is going to ruin my plans. And then reality acceptance column says, yep, it's raining. So reality acceptance skills are accepting the situation for what it is, and that causes, therefore, less suffering. Because when we try to argue, so to speak, with reality, we're causing ourselves unnecessary suffering.
Hmm.
Another example would be, but going back to reality acceptance skills, it doesn't mean accepting an unacceptable situation. Meaning, let's say you're currently living in an abusive relationship.
Hmm.
It doesn't mean you have to accept that situation, an unacceptable situation, and an abusive situation. You could, take steps to get yourself out of that situation. Reality skills also don't mean that you just have to be resigned and this is just my lot in life and that's how it's going to be. So there's some fine lines in terms of reality acceptance skills. Like
Yeah,
again,
it's not a global acceptance of any situation. It's a choice to really control your emotional response to a situation, I think.
right.
It's more about
And
it's more about controlling how you react to the situation. I mean, I use the transactional model to look at situations in the lens of what do you say? You call it reality acceptance. I'll give you an example. So
yeah,
in terms of the transactional model, so there's an event, then there's a judgment, then there's an arousal, then there's an invalidating statement or a response, and then there's an emotion and secondary emotion.
yeah,
And at each step of the way between the event and the final emotional response, there are a number of points where acceptance can stop that journey and from or that direct relationship between
spiral.
the event, yes, between
Yeah,
the event and the final emotional
right.
arousal, because we're not actually, psychologists and psychological tools cannot change the course of life. We can't change events, but we can change how we react to
Yeah,
events. And it's, for me, unnecessary suffering is the emotional response at the end of the day to events. And if you can control that, then that becomes more, you can become more accepting of the situation.
right. Um,
Well, I
and
don't know
I would
what say
qualify
you to
that.
that.
I would add that. So going back to your transactional analysis, you're looking at how to intervene so the client responds, or how the client can respond rather than react, because
Yes.
it's the reacting 9 times out of 10 that causes the suffering. Whereas if the
Yes.
client is really looking at, okay, this is what happened, this was my reaction, let me challenge this reaction. Is this really
Mm.
true? And if not, then how could I respond? Pause and look more accurately at this, or my, initial thought about this situation, and therefore hopefully causes the client to be more responding on that level instead of reacting. Because as we know, reacting, for clients or for anyone, we're usually in our reptilian brain. We're not really thinking rationally, and it's usually inaccurate in terms of our
Mm.
observations and our assessment of the situation.
Yeah, I suppose another way that I think about reality acceptance is that famous line or that famous idea that Viktor Frankl put out, that there is a space between event and response. And in that space, there is a choice that you can make. And for me, reality acceptance is all about the choice that we make in that space.
And the choice that we make. So for a lot of folks who are coming to DBT and learning these skills, they don't feel they have a choice. They're just one big reactor ball. So we
Yeah.
teach them skills, like mindfulness and meditation. That helps to build that pause button, and therefore being
Mm.
able to respond rather than react. So I love Viktor Frankl's book, and I really agree with him. But most clients don't have that pause button in them. They don't even have the skill to get to that point. So that's where the
Mm.
mindfulness and meditation skills come in handy. So they could learn how to pause and then say, okay, what's, a response rather than reaction. And there's a
Mm.
saying in 12-step program that for each year of sobriety, you're adding another second or another minute to that pause button. So if you
Yeah.
have 10 years of recovery, you've got 10 minutes you could pause, or maybe it's 10 seconds. I'm not quite sure. But so for me, I would have 45 minutes. No, I think it's more on second basis. I would have 45 seconds. But that 45 seconds is a long time. Um,
Especially when you're trying to separate event from reaction, aren't you?
yes, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it's some of my less psychologically minded friends and colleagues laugh at me and poo-poo and paw this idea. And they say, but Fergal, does it really work? And I say, well, of course it works. But I would ask you the same question. In your experience, how effective is reality acceptance in helping people through life and in helping people cope with the slings and arrows of adversity?
Well, I could say from personal experience, it really helps.
Yeah.
And, learning these tools both professionally and on a personal level.
Mm.
And I've seen it in clients where, like for me, I beat up on myself less. If when I use the reality acceptance skills, instead of, oh, I should have done that, or why didn't I do this, or I could have done that. These are the
Yeah.
slings and arrows that are not helpful, that
Yeah.
add to my
Yeah.
suffering, that add
Yeah.
to a client's suffering. But
Mm.
using reality acceptance skills, I'm lessening the suffering for me. And when I teach them to clients, they're suffering less, because a lot of clients also have a lot of regret in their life. I should have never done this. Why did I get divorced? Why did I quit that job? Why did I take that job? Why did I move? I should have done better by my kid. So there's unfortunately a lot of regret that a lot of adults have. And so the reality acceptance skills help a client to more accept what happened, basically doing the best you could at the time, and now learning skills, not, beating up yourself is not going to help. I actually have on my Instagram that we can't hate ourselves into accepting ourselves. And
That's a very
that's
good line. Yeah.
that's partly what is happening when we're not accepting a situation or when we're beating up on ourselves, which is all
Mm.
too common for both clients and just people alike. That
Mm.
somehow we think that's going to, I don't know, mea culpa is somehow going to get us to a point of that forgives us or
Yeah.
absolves us. But unfortunately, it just makes people depressed and gets them more stuck, or they stay stuck.
Yeah. There, I mean, as I've been listening to you speak, I am reminded of three things. I was going to try and describe them as literature or pop culture, but okay. Firstly, Sun Tzu, the Chinese general who wrote The Art of War, said something like this, and I'm going to paraphrase it. He said, "If you if you don't have anxiety in your life, you die once. If you have anxiety in your life, you die 1,000 deaths." And then, of course, Frank Sinatra said, "I did it my way." And Edith Piaf said, "I have no regrets. Non rien de rien, je n'ai aucun regret." So there are various, authors out there that are actually, I think, verging on the idea of reality acceptance. I don't know. Am I being facetious?
Yeah. No, I like that. The art of war. I've heard that. If I have anxiety, I die once. If I don't, I die a
No, no,
thousand
no.
times.
If I don't have anxiety, I die once.
Okay.
If I do have anxiety, I die 1,000 deaths.
Yeah, I like that. I've heard that. I like that
Yeah.
quote.
Or I paraphrase it. I can't remember the quotation
I
exactly, but
think
it's
that
something
is
like
it.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so again, reality acceptance is also something like all DBT skills that we have to practice. You know,
Hmm.
um, there are certain issues in my life that I tend to circle back to, and I think we all have our certain hot points that we tend to go
Yeah.
back to that we wish we could do over.
Yeah.
And now if I find myself on that hot point, then I
Yeah.
use one of the reality acceptance skills. It's like retraining our brain. As soon as I notice veering off into X, Y, or Z, it's like, oh, nope, come to the here and now. Let's look
Hmm.
at what's happening now. It was really interesting last night. I don't know if you watched Ted Lasso at all, but
I've been recommended that show. I don't want to buy yet another TV streaming subscription.
it was really interesting because he was talking to a friend. So his son is visiting from America, hanging out with one of his friends while he's talking to a friend at a table, like maybe 100 feet away, about the situation of his son. And his ex was there with her new boyfriend, and it looked like they might be getting engaged in Paris. And then finally, his friend's like, "You're missing the now. Like, your son's over there. I hear some people singing." And he's like, "Oh my God, I'm so focused on what I can't change, which is his ex being in love with someone else." And he hung up the phone right away and went back over to where his son was and started singing "Hey Jude," which was one of theirs. They both love this song. And I thought that is a really good example of reality acceptance, how him not being in the current moment, meaning your son's right here. You can't change the past, what happened with your ex-wife, but here you
Yeah.
are. And it was like, wow, that would be perfect. I want to get that clip, and use it because it was a very good example of how we could get so lost into, oh, woulda, coulda, shoulda. And then who's right there? Your kid's right there. You could change what's happening there. You can't change your marriage that's over. And I feel like
Yeah.
that's what the epiphany he had. Well, not so much he, but his friend said, your sin's over there. Get off this call. Go over there. And
Yeah.
I think that was really about reality, acceptance, and being in the moment, which is part of mindfulness. Being in this moment, this
Mhm.
moment, this moment, which is one of the meditations. You just say
Right.
that phrase over and over. Now I'm in this moment, this moment, this moment. Because he was all freaked out
It
that
was
they were
all over
getting
the place.
engaged, and yeah.
So listen, Laura, we've run out of time today. So,
Okay.
but I'd really like to talk to you more about the non-crisis emotional regulation skills in another episode. Thank you very much for your time and expertise today.
Thank you for the invitation. It's always great to be here, Fergal.
That's all for today, folks. My name is Dr. Fergal Armstrong, and this has been Cracking Addiction.